Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nun Zayin Naz, right? Nazir. So today is Daf Nun Zayin Maseches Nazir, and this is the last parak. Yeah, eighth parak. Beginning of the eighth parak. Yeah, this is eight. Yeah, thank you. All right. And away we go. Shnei Nazirim she'amar lehen echad re'isi echad mikem shenitma. Ve'emir de'eiza mikem. Two Nazirim are together. All of a sudden, a third person approaches them. He says, "By the way, I saw one of you guys become tamei, and I don't know which one." Now, let's say they're both a Nazir for Stam Nazirs for, let's say, 30 days. So one of them has to go ahead and bring his Karbanos Tuma and then restart. And the other one can just go ahead and, complete or do his 30 days. But we don't know which one's which. So what do they do in this case? So, Migalchim Avin Karban Tuma, the Karban Tahara. They go ahead, they wait 30 days. Each one suspects that perhaps he is Tahar. So each one observe 30 days clean together. And when I say clean, I mean without Tuma and without wine or cutting hair. And then Megalchin, and they both shave. Within Karban Tuma, the Karban Tahara, then they bring two sets of Karbanos. One, the Karban Tuma, right, the bird offerings, and the other one, the Karban Tahira, the concluding offerings. All right, so there's two sets brought, and they both bring them together. The Eimer, and they say, or they don't have to say, but as if they said, Imani Tame, if I was the one who was Tame, then Karban Tuma Shali, then the Karban Tuma is mine. The Karban Tahara Shalcha, right? The Karban Tuma, right? The birds, right? Those are mine, and the concluding Karbanos are yours. Vimi ani hu tahor. And if I am the one who was tahor, then Karban Tahara Shali, then the concluding Karbanos are mine. The Karban Tuma Shalcha. And then the other carbon, the Tuma ones are yours. Now, whoever was Tameh needs to go ahead and do, now so he just concluded his Karbanos Tuma. So now he needs to go ahead and do a Nazirus. And then we say, then they count another 30 days, both of them, moving Karban Tahara. And then they bring one set of Karbanos together. If I was one who was Tameh before, then Karban Tuma Shali, then this Karban Tuma is Karban Tuma Shali, then the previous Karban Tuma was mine 30 days ago. The Karban Tahara, now the Karban Tahara, which is brought on day 60, Shalcha, is your. Excuse me, what's that? If I was the one who was Tameh, Karban Tuma Shali, the Karban Tuma Shalcha. Right, then it was yours. V'zeh Karban Tarati. In other words, that was my Karban Tuma. That was your Karban Torah, and this is my Karban Torah now. V'imani hu Torah. If I was the one who was Torah before, then Karban Torah Shali. Then the previous Karban Torah was mine. The Karban Tuma Shalcha, and then the Karban Tuma earlier was yours. And now v'zeh Karban Torah Salecha. Now this is your concluding Karban. Right. So therefore, this way they go ahead and they go ahead and basically get rid of any suffix here. So whoever was Tameh was able to go ahead and bring his Karbanos Tuma at the end of 30 days. And then that person waited another 30 days to bring his concluding Karbanos to finish his Nazirs.
So they both have to
repeat
the zeros.
One is that it said Rashi says they're coupled in Nazirs together. So if it's systemic, I don't know that. Even if the guy gets Tameh, he won't necessarily know that they have done this together 24 years before.
Right.
So that makes a difference. They had to do it together in order to solve it.
Well, the assumption is that they have the same timeline. In other words, their finishing day. In other words,
That's the key.
right. Well, then there would have right. In other words, let's say they're in the middle of day 15, right? So then l'chayra, what they would have to do is, like they would have to wait 15 days, right? In order to do that, right? The issue is if one guy ends in 2 weeks and the other guy has a year Nazirus, then the case, would our case would line up differently. It would be separate halachas. Now, it might be similar halachas to work out in such a situation, but our case, when it says do 30 now. In other words, they start, this is the simplest case. They start together, and therefore they would end together, and therefore they
The only thing, the general premise is we believe somebody who says, oh yeah, I saw you.
yeah, so right. So Tosis points out that they're shaykim, right? Because if they would be machish, they would argue, then they wouldn't go ahead and bring. Then he wouldn't be never. Yeah.
I was going to ask that, but it was all based on an echad. An echad can come and say this.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Correct.
They
Right.
both have to go through
And they
Hazar.
both do it again. Yes. Correct.
Okay, and they would do the Hazar right away,
Which
both of them.
yeah. At the end, well, right. I mean, they would both right. They would both do that in order to.
They would both do Hazar right away.
You Starbucks. Thank you. No problem. What? Yeah. But
And one of them brings the Corbano.
they both bring kabbalas.
Oh, they both bring.
Yeah.
They both bring one set of one.
Well, the second one, right now.
Tomorrow.
Zak the Gemara. Let's see. Tony, it says over there, Shnei Nazirim. Shalom, Reitiach Hameichen. So two of them, they're Nazir, and the person said to them, Reitiach Hameichen, Shenitba. Then there's a recap. V'amai. Why is this? Kol Safek Tuma, B'shus HaYachid, Meheicha Yalfin and Law. Okay, so let's go ahead and analyze this. So a case of Safek Tuma, right? It's a Safek. One of you guys are Safek. So what's Safek Tuma? So Yachid Meheicha. Where do we learn that from? Yisota. That's a sota. In other words, a man and a woman are secluded, and we don't know what occurred, and therefore we say, you know what, you're assumed guilty until we prove your innocence, right there. So over there, so that's the case. Now, how many people are in this private? There's Peshusa Yachid. It's two people. It's the Baal and the Nivelas. Thank you so much. So it's the man and the woman, right? The man and the woman together. So to any subject tuma of two people, there's two people, we would say, hey, it's just two people involved, and that's a suffix where we assume that you're tummy. But over here, Shnei Nazirim v'hai. But we got two Nazirim, and we got the third person saying, hey, you guys were tummy, right? Right? So now it's three people. Why isn't this? Hey, it's three people now. Let's call this a rabbim, and Savitum is a rabbim. Because Savitum is a rabbim, Sveiko Tower. This Savit should be Tower. We don't know which one, so therefore each one, we can say, okay, we don't know your tummy, so therefore we can assume your Tower. Some Rabbi Rav Huna, the Eimer Raisi Tuma Shenizacha Benechem. The guy says, he was not with them. There were two Nazirim together. There was only two people, and there was a guy from afar, and he saw that some sort of Tuma was thrown, right, and bounced off the shoulder, whatever it was thrown, right, between them or into one of them. And he only saw, so he wasn't with him. It was only two people. And now Diganami can also make an inference from the Basha, and the Tony says over there, didn't say, right, I didn't know which one, and how do you know which one? If he was with them, obviously he was not with them. Therefore, it was only a case of two. A case of two, we can say that it's a suffix is tummy. Fine. Next issue, Magalchin Umavi. So they shave and then they bring. Now the issue really isn't going to be the first shaving. Why? Because the first shaving, if you're tahor, when you conclude your nazirus, you got to shave. If you're tameh, you got to conclude your tuma by shaving in order to restart your nazirus. So either way, both of them have to shave. So that's not really an issue. But really, the second one, even though the Mishnah doesn't mention at the end of the second set of 30 days, he just says count 30 days, then bring your carbon. Obviously, they both have to shave because whoever is concluding his Naziris now needs to go ahead and shave. But the question is, why are they able to shave? Well, perhaps one of them was not tamei, and therefore he already concluded his nazirus. So then he just count 30 days because of his safek, and then he shaved, but he was never really a nazir. So how could he do that, right? L'chaira, he's shaving off his head. One is not allowed to go ahead and round his corners, right?
Yeah, but
so let's see.
Oh.
So So Amar Shmuel. The ish of a couple. We're talking about a woman and a katan. A woman is not commanded not to round the corners of her head, right? As we'll soon see, there's going to be a couple of machlokim that we'll be dealing with, right? One of them, it says when it compares, do not round your corners, do not shave your beard. So shave your beard. Who's involved in shaving beard? Not women. So therefore, since women aren't involved in shaving your beard, so they're not obligated in rounding your corners, right? So you can go ahead and shave your head, right? A woman can, and also a katan. A katan is not obligated in deraisa. So that's what Shmuel says. Now let's say we're talking about a gadol, but let's say like this: you can't round the corner. What does it mean rounding the corners? Right? Rounding the corners means that you have your hair, and then you round out the corners by removing your sideburns, right? That would be rounding out the corners, right? You're rounding it over here, right? As opposed to going down. So you're rounding it out. Now, what's the way of not rounding it? If I remove it all, maybe if I remove it all, I didn't violate anything because I didn't round any corners. There's no corners. It's bald. There's nothing there, right? Why didn't we say that? We're talking about a gadol, and since you're not rounding anything, you're removing it all. Maybe that's okay. I look at now, by the fact that Shmuel did not get a teretz, right? Shmamina must learn from here that that indeed shaving your entire head is still a violation of rounding your corners. In other words, that doesn't get you out. Fine. Now, Mar Zutra had this conversation or this in terms of statement of Shmuel. I actually had something else. Shmaitz said the Shmuel HaSeifa was actually going to the Seifa of Mishnah later on, which you actually seen earlier. So we don't really necessarily have to get into the specifics of this case, but we saw this a couple of days ago. Of Nazir Shayatami Besafik, if you had a Nazir that himself was a Safik Muchlat, he was Besafik, he was someone he might have been Tame, he might have not been Tame, he might have been a Vada Hasara, he might have not. So such a case, what do we say over there? You can go ahead and cut him after 60 days, right? He has to do a shaving at the 30-day mark, right? And at the 60-day mark, and that's able to be cut him, but he didn't finish his zeros. And he shaves 4 times. Now, remember, he's shaving at day 30, 60, 90, 120. All of it to a suffix just in case he was one, just in case he was both, but he could have been neither. So yeah, it was one thing to shave after 30 days, but let's say he was never Tameh or never a Mitzvah. How was he allowed to go ahead and shave on day 60 and day 90 and day 120? He's removing all of his hair. So on that, we're talking about that case by a woman or a katan, because both a woman and a katan are not commanded midaraisa not to go ahead and round their corners. And Amar Rav Huna, it says Rav Huna, fine. And so that was what Shmuel said. And Amar Rav Huna says Rav Huna, Hamaki v'sakatan harehu chay. One who goes ahead and rounds the corners of a katan, right now, the person giving the haircut, right? Hamaki v'sakatan, not a katan does himself, right? Obviously, he's not commanded in it, but one who goes ahead and hamaki v'sakatan harehu chay. You're not allowed to go ahead and round the corners. So, Amar le Ravad Barav Rav Huna. What do you mean? Why is that wrong? So, in other words, so how do you not? The dircha. So your kids, man megalachlun. Who goes ahead and cuts your kids here? Of course, why can't you cut a cut? Right? You hold the tzasser. So who shaves your kids' heads? Samarle chayva. He says his wife chayva. So why? So we'll soon see why his wife does it, because she's a female. We'll soon see that what the issue is over here. So then he says Rav Ada Barabba, Tigboru nechayva lebana. She should go ahead if she's doing it. In other words, according to Rav Ada Barabba, there's no difference between a man and woman. Soon see why. Therefore, if she's doing it, right, basically he cursed them that none of the kids should live long. She's like burying her kids. She's doing these averas with her children, because if you hold them, man is usher, right? You can't do it. So then your wife can't do it. If your wife is doing it, then it's she's giving him bad vibes, and she should bury her kids. And they say Kulishoni the Rav Ada Barabba Yakim La Zari the Rav Huna. All the years that Rav Ada Barabba was alive, right? Unintentionally, right? The children of Rav Huna did not survive. They did not live. Basically, his curse landed or set upon Rav Huna. Yeah. Now,
It's friends like these.
so Michli, right? Who needs that, right? So Michli Tarvayu, Svira Kavas Kol Rosh Miakafa. So both of them apparently hold, right? That that rounding to shave the head is considered hakafa. In other words, one of them was saying that only both can do it. The other one says only a woman can do it. So my commitment. So what's the machlekes here? Rav Huna Saver. So let's see. So Rav Huna, who says, hey, it's okay for my wife to do it. Saver. Says pass So the pasuk in Vayikra, it says over there, do not round the corners of your head and do not destroy the corners of your beard. Now, that was the pasuk. So that's so Rav Huna about that pasuk. So koshi yesh la hashchasa yesh la kafa. Whoever is commanded, not to destroy, they're also commanded not to round. Lahani nashi, and these women, since they're not obligated, in destroying their beard.
Oh, they don't have a beard.
They don't, right. So therefore, since they're not, the beard is that part of the puzzle not applicable to them. Less no nami hakafa. So too hakafa is. Now over here, he's learning it that whoever is commanded, not to go ahead and have his beard cut, is also commanded, not to cut his beard. So in other words, you can say like this, Tarsus can cut off your payas, right? So, okay, I'll go to the barber, have the Goyish barber cut off my payas, right? No. So it goes both ways. Just like I'm commanded, not to go ahead and round the corners of my own, so too, no one is allowed to go ahead and do it to me.
Okay.
No, so we learn. So because the pasuk is talking about beards, it's not talking about women. So therefore, since women are not commanded not to have their beards destroyed, there's no commandment upon them not to go ahead and destroy beards. So they can destroy beards. And therefore, also, since both the pasuk is one pasuk, so too the corners does apply to them. Just like they're not commanded not to round the corners, so too they're not commanded to round others' corners. So therefore, a woman can go ahead and give it. She's not violating anything.
Well, also a cotton doesn't have a beard. So they're
Right. So
not
a cut
in
is
the
outside.
parsha.
A cut is outside the pasuk anyway. It's outside the pasuk anyway. But the question is, who can go ahead and give a cut and a haircut? We're saying a man cannot because he's commanded in all the commandments regarding corners and beards. But a woman is not because she's not commanded in corners and beards. No. Both the pasuk, because the pasuk says leisa kifu, One says leisa kifu peyas v'sheichem, v'leisa hashcha says peyas zikanecha, So it says both the pasuk is mashma, both the one who is the rounding and the one who is getting rounded the mashma. The iskish makif lanikaf, and therefore we go make a hekesh comparison to the one who's doing it, to the one who is happening to. So in other words, if the person who's receiving the haircut, is forbidden, then makif nami mechai, So in other words, so you say according to the previous, a woman not only is she allowed to give a katan, so she would be able to go ahead and there's no issue on her to give somebody else, That was how Rav Huna or Rav Abba would say no. If there is an Easter to the one getting the haircut, then there is the Easter to the one giving the haircut. So therefore, a woman would not be able to go ahead and round a man's corners, The high cotton, and since this is cotton, hoil vihi gufe la baranchin, and the cotton, since he's not baranchinu, the mechayiv, so machiv nami la mechayiv, So therefore, the one doing the rounding is also not mechayiv. So therefore, according to Rav Barava, since it's a cotton, anybody can give the haircut, A man or the woman, But according to Rav Huna, no. A man is always obligated, even if it's rounding the corners of a child, even if it's the rounding of the corners of somebody else who's not baronchin, so he would not be allowed to do it because he's not allowed to round any corners, not only his own corners, anybody's corners, But according to Rav Barava, since the person getting the haircut, i.e. a cut is la baronchin, so therefore it wouldn't be a violation. So we're gonna stop over here because the bell just rang. So, yeah. So now this starts a whole new conversation. So machlokes tonight in the situation. I will not be here, but Bez Hashem, Levi will be here tomorrow and Thursday. I gotta go a little